Welcome to Keeping Up with Trends. This is Fed Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading, and we're joined with your host, Sergio Davids. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good, man. Good to be alive, positive. Yeah, all good.
Starts with gratitude.
You're right. You're right. And perspective. So, yeah, can't complain and ready to tell our viewers what's happening in the markets.
Okay, so what do we have on our agenda today?
Well, it's been a week of volatility, both ways. We've seen the markets been a bit shaken up, uh, some going up, some going down, and I wanted us to unpack how we could trade during times of, volatility. I mean, for the past few weeks, we've seen, not so much, the markets have been stagnant, but, with the US dollar being so overwhelming, it's kind of gone one way. And this week, on the other hand, we've seen things be quite volatile. But before that, I thought we can chat about that ever-growing scourge called AI and what's happening there.
You say it almost ominously.
Well, unfortunately, I was raised on movies such as The Terminator. So I always think, when are we going to get to a place where Skynet is going to build the robots who are eventually going to replace and or eliminate us? But before that,
Who says it
hasn't? Scary thought. So OpenAI, has made major moves this year, especially with its biggest software platform ChatGPT, rocking markets. So it recently introduced a major update during testing. It's probably going to be rolled out next month. It's hoped that it's going to make building software applications much cheaper through ChatGPT. In a sense, what it's going to do is, you can already do this with ChatGPT, but its next step is going to take this to the next level where you can actually program things. So, you ask it to code for you. So I'll type in, please create a button for me. I need it to be clickable. Take me to whatever page on my website, and it'll spit out the code for that. The next step is going to be totally developing a program for you. And I don't have to tell you that the world's most, in-demand jobs currently are software engineers and developers.
Well, someone has to develop the AI.
Well, they have. So now imagine you take this to the next step where you might not need a developer, because you could just ask the AI to fix whatever it is. It's the problem on your website. Yeah, on the AI, make it even smarter.
There you go.
Or make jobs obsolete. What do you think?
That's what I'm saying. So there you go. What was that called on Terminator?
Oh, Skynet.
Skynet is already out. There you go.
Yeah.
They're predicting that AI is going to add so many jobs in the next 10 years, and the markets are really rallied behind that. I mean, Facebook is at all-time yearly, not all-time highs, but yearly new highs. Google made new highs also yesterday. And
they've also launched their AI, Bard. So, yeah.
So the markets are recovering when it comes to, big tech, and that's carrying the market, because the rest of the market is really slugging, because consumer spending is down, because interest rates are high.
Yeah, and inflation is killing us in prices.
Inflation is killing us. So there's a lot of, activity in the market, but it's not all going at the same pace and in the same direction. So with that said, I think that, we have to see how this AI will really pan out and create all this added wealth in the market. The question is on what end? I mean, we've automated, for example, we've automated cars, right? Cars are, are mostly
made to that state where,
cars are made by
self-driving cars are not, a myth anymore.
So what are those people doing?
More regular.
What are they doing? They're finding other jobs in other sectors, meaning there
Yeah.
are other jobs, and people are not dying from
Well,
starvation.
you always tell me that money doesn't disappear. It
Right?
just
It
moves
just
to other
relocates.
markets.
That's
So
all it does.
I think what it's going to come down to is he who can use the AI the best is going to come out in tops.
But I'll tell you
You
one
know?
thing. I'll tell you one thing because I think that this is really, as long as a population is growing, then you could always see money just moving from one sector to the next. Meaning to say like this: Japan finds themselves in a very sticky situation because their population is
Yeah.
actually declining,
So
not
yeah, it's
growing.
actually contracting.
It's contracting.
Yeah.
Now, you can shift from one industry to another industry as long as the population is still growing, meaning that, I mean, I need still housing for these new population. I
Yeah.
need, new schools for this new population. I need,
Mm-hmm.
so like
Hospitals, social services.
hospitals,
Yeah.
or even just sustaining it, just sustaining the current level. Do you know in the United States right now, there is a tremendous depletion, not enough nurses
Yeah.
in the industry, and they're
Yep.
paying them like $100K a year. They're getting paid awesome salary, um, good incentives, vacations, this and that. It's not an easy job to be a nurse, absolutely not, and quite, on the contrary, I would say it's a very uh, altruistic
Yeah.
kind of job because
It takes a
you're
very, dedicated person to be a nurse because it's
yeah,
quite often
very
a
altruistic.
thankless, a thankless task.
They're exactly that. So, like I said before, it's not that the markets are ever going to be in a situation where they don't exist. Unfortunately, I see it in South Africa that it doesn't breed from one industry to the next. Like the unemployment is so high in South
Yeah.
Africa that you can't have this money, you know, go around for everybody, so to speak. And
Yeah.
that is a
There's just
travesty.
not enough.
That is really a travesty
Yeah.
because there's not enough workers to do the work, to do even non-skilled workers, right? um there's not enough activity to do non-skilled workers kind of activity in order for them to justify the higher increase of payment. So
Yeah.
it's it's a very sticky situation. And think about it in the other ways, like let's just say, for argument's sake, that you could produce a shirt, okay? Production of a Gap shirt, let's say,
Right.
in South Africa for the same price that you could produce it in China. Let's say.
Sure. I'm going to go to China.
Why? Because
The-
the infrastructure is
yes,
much
they've got
more
the infrastructure. The
set
overheads are
up. It's
probably
just easier.
cheaper,
I could
cheaper
just take
labor.
it from
Well,
China as opposed
it's
to take
funny you
it from.
should mention that because we're currently dealing with a situation where a company called Shane. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Sure.
Yeah, they're
Shane.
huge, Chinese retailer is taking away market share locally, and obviously, one of our biggest. Obviously, a lot of companies are talking about this. ShopRite for one, and our biggest sort of African retailer in terms of e-commerce, Takealot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Takealot, but sort of an African analog to Amazon, and they're quite upset. But it's easy to see why. I mean, I buy things over Shane. Why wouldn't I? It's cheaper. I get better quality. I get more goods. Um, I'll take my business elsewhere. If South Africa could offer me the same, you know, quality at the same price, then sure, I would support.
Makes
So
total sense.
yeah, I mean, what do they want to do? And the sad thing is, now they're asking for heavy tariffs to for imports. I mean, all that's going to do is jack up the price of Shane products. Sure, it's going to hit them in the short term, but everything else is going to be affected, and I won't buy local goods anyway. It's not going to make local goods cheaper. They're not offsetting the cost of local goods. So yeah, weird balancing act we have to do.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, going back to AI, you see that as long as markets can continue growing on a population wise, it can
yeah,
sustain itself. You could find another job in something else. You have to have a little bit of um, courageousness, a little bit of
yeah. Just
industry in
Just
order
think
to
outside
do
the
it.
box. Like, the sad thing for me is a lot of people are using AI as to replace themselves, as opposed to using it as a tool. It's a tool to, make your job easier. That's what it's supposed to be, not the replacement for people. I mean, in India, they currently have a news channel where there's an AI newsreader, because obviously, bad business practice thinks, let's just fire all the human workers and the reporters, and then we'll just have an AI read and do the news. And in South Africa, we're actually working on legislation to protect journalists and reporting to be, to not be replaced by AI. But again, we should be using AI, not,
Should be a tool,
it's a tool. It's a tool that can infinitely help us. I mean, I was thinking about using AI. I wonder when we're going to start using AI, in crime fighting, for example. An AI could make connections that your old detective might not be able to. Can analyze evidence better, pick up on facts, analyze a room. I don't know. Just the way it can help us is just tremendous.
It should
But
be a tool, not a substitute.
but the weirdest thing is we always go into that direction. We always think, how can we replace people?
Because that's the Industrial Revolution. Everything about the Industrial Revolution was to substitute.
Yeah,
Because
to replace
ultimately,
us.
I make money if I substitute. If I give you something
Yeah.
cheaper for this same output, then that's it.
Yep.
That's what the Industrial
And it's
Revolution did.
sad. Yeah, it's sad that it's coming to that.
It's sad and it's capitalistic, but again, it creates other jobs in other areas. They don't disappear.
Moving on from AI. So markets are volatile, right? In either
Yes.
direction. So I always thought that it it's prudent to try and do your homework. So you do your research, you look up what's going on with the US dollar, both at a micro and a macro level. So what's going on internally in the US and what's going on externally. Are things affecting the euro, Asian stocks, what's happening in the Middle East, that kind of thing. So then you can sort of follow the trend. Is
Right.
there anything sort of different to that, as opposed to in technical trading?
So, I mean, we really don't care. There's three premises that comes up when you're looking to trade technicals. One, the news doesn't really matter. You don't care why. You
Okay.
care when and how.
When and how? Would that not be,
Because
sorry for a silly question, but would that not be determined by why?
so not necessarily. Meaning to say like this, many times the markets are valued in. Like for example, we saw this a couple of weeks ago. Nvidia came out with stunning quarterly reports. Remember, we had this conversation on a podcast. And Nvidia came out with fantastic and guided even higher moving forward, and everything was great, right? And the stock was about $500, gapped up the next day, and then sold off to $400. So what gives? Why did it do that? So we call it factored in. The price is already factored into what the sales report and the guidance was. So it wasn't like it was amazing news that was all of a sudden going to more amazing than what we have had already, that it was going to take us to $1,000 a share.
Right.
So when you look at things like that, you have to consider it, that the market's reaction to it is not always going to pin down the exact amount of the true value of a particular asset. I mean, if we were selling Coca-Cola today, if Coca-Cola sold itself, what would be its true value? The purchase price, the price times the outstanding shares in the market,
Right.
meaning
Okay. I see what you mean.
there's
But
there's a brand, there's
I
logistical
know,
value.
yes, but if I do my research, I know that tomorrow is going to be super hot, right? Might be the hottest day, of um, October. So I know, that historically hot days equals more Coca-Cola sales, right? So would it not then be prudent for me to purchase Coca-Cola shares ahead, or like in this example you're saying, right, sell more product on that day.
Well, not
Right.
necessarily. I mean, you're looking at it as like the probability. You're looking at it from a state of probability.
Right.
Maybe tomorrow there'll be people not coming to the beach because I don't know, it's holiday season, and maybe something
Okay.
will happen tomorrow that will not
Right.
produce the outcome that you're necessarily saying it'll happen.
Right.
Yes, but that's also that's technical. That's not what you're saying right now is not necessarily, try to figure out the why. You're anticipating based on, you could be wrong. That's trading. What you're saying right now is trading technicals. What we were saying before is not trading technicals. That's more fundamental, analyzing data over a period of time, and seeing that there's a certain sequence and anticipating that future sequence.
Right.
Whereas technicals, you don't know necessarily what that sequence is, but you do look at historical data in order to give you some perspective of where the future trend will lie. So it's very similar the one to the two, and sometimes they overlap in truth. But technical trading doesn't really care why. Fundamental analysis cares why. Well, because this factor was in the market. Like,
Yep.
I look at my credit card bill every month. For some reason, it comes out the same thing. And I look at my wife and I look at myself and I say, I also use the card, right? So,
Right.
and I look at my wife and I say, like, why? Doesn't matter really. It comes out to the same thing,
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to know why.
Yeah, sure. But it doesn't really matter.
No.
Okay. Um, I think maybe going forward we should have a proper, unpacking of technical analysis and fundamental analysis. But for this one, I think we'll leave it there. Any advice you have for traders out there?
So we're going into earning season. Dun 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 dun.
Can't
Right, third
wait.
quarter.
Oh yes.
And then we're heading December, and that's it. 2023 is behind us. So it's going to be kind of exciting what's going to happen in the next couple of days. I think it's going to be kind of interesting in the next couple of weeks. I mean, so stay tuned and just the, trading technicals doesn't mean that I don't pay attention to what the news is.
Right.
It just doesn't necessarily mean what the news is saying is why it is what it is. And I love those type of headlines. Market sell off because, like, okay, once in a while they get it right, but it's not necessarily necessary to know why. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. You make a valid point. And on that note, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you, Fred, for all your awesome advice as usual.
Thank you, Sergio.
Cool. I'll see you on the next one, man.
God bless.